Hey guys, today we are looking at two very popular tints by Big Agnes, the Copper Spur HV UL2 versus the Tiger Wall UL2. That's next. Welcome to Backcountry Renegade. My name's Jeff. Today we are looking at two popular tints by Big Agnes, and we have the HV UL2 Copper Spur, which has been my tint of choice the past few years, and we have a newcomer, the Tiger Wall UL2. The Tiger Wall comes in at half a pound lighter than the Big Agnes, and it's also $50 to $60 cheaper, but when you go lightweight, you also make some sacrifices. Let's check it out in more detail and find out what that is. If you are looking for a lightweight tint that is durable and under 3 pounds, you've probably come across these two tints by Big Agnes, the Tiger Wall UL2 and the Copper Spur HV UL2. The two most popular tints from Big Agnes for the past few years for ultralight backpacking before the Tiger Wall came out has been the Copper Spur HV UL2 and the Fly Creek UL2. The Fly Creek has been one of the lightest two-person tints from Big Agnes at only 1 pound and 15 ounces, but it was not as roomy. It was a front entrance tint only, and the sides of the walls fell inward, thus it limited your interior space. The Copper Spur, on the other hand, is the next two-person tint that has been a long-time bestseller for Big Agnes and one of my personal picks the last few years. It's roomy, it had 2 doors, it's easy to set up, it's great in wind, and it's relatively lightweight. But it is heavier than the Fly Creek because of the added pole structure, which is more robust and gives it its high volume capacity. Then comes the Tiger Wall, as its most recent addition from Big Agnes. The Tiger Wall seems to take the best of both the Fly Creek and the Copper Spur and bring them into one tint. As a result, you get a roomy yet lightweight option that is just over 2 pounds. Let's take a look at the specs and features of each the Tiger Wall and the Copper Spur and compare and contrast, as we also see the pros and cons of each tint. There are similarities that both these tints have. Both of them have great headroom. Both of them are livable and enough space for 2 people. Both have double walls and both have 2-door entries. Now the specs for the Tiger Wall is that the Tiger Wall is an ultralight 3-season backpacking tint. If you're familiar with the Nemo Hornet, this is very similar, but the Tiger Wall has a bit more durable materials. The packed weight of the Tiger Wall is 2.56 pounds or 2 pounds 8 ounces. The floor area is about 28 square feet and comes in for the dimensions at 83 inches by 50 inches by 36/40 depending on the headroom/footroom area. The pack size is 18 inches by 5.5 inches. It is great living space for its size and weight, and it retails for $375. It uses DAC aluminum featherlight pole structures that is 8.7 millimeters in diameter. The Tiger Wall comes in only one color, which is this bright yellow with a white rainfly. The Copper Spur that I have here is the 2019 version. This is a 2-person freestanding tint that is also a 3-season ultralight backpacking tint and is one of the most popular tints that is seen on trail. I was not interested in the newest updates for the 2020 version, so I decided to stick with the 2019 version. The Copper Spur weighs in at 3.09 pounds. The floor area is 29 square feet and has dimensions of 88 by 52/42 by 40 inches. So you're getting 40 inches of headroom. Also, the floor is made out of 15 denier by 20 denier and has a pack size of 19.5 by 6 inches. The Copper Spur is a fully freestanding tint and costs $425. You have the DAC Featherlight aluminum pole structure, and it comes in either an orange or this kind of camo green color that we have here. Let's take a look at the Tiger Wall. For the setup, we can see that it is pretty simple. The poles are color-coded and takes about 5 minutes to set up with the rainfly. The tint material is very thin, so I highly recommend that you use a ground sheet when you are out in the wilderness. Looking at the outside, we can see that the structure is a 3-way hub DAC aluminum pole structure setup. There's also a cross pole to help space out the walls and provide really good headroom. Where the footbox is, with the single side pole, there are 2 corners that you do need to stake out. Now these are pre-cut guidelines, which is a bit of a bummer because you will not always have perfectly flat ground. So if you do get this tent, I highly recommend you commit to making your own adjustable guidelines. The Tiger Wall also has 2 doors and 2 vestibules with plenty of room to store your gear. With the Rainfly, the material is white and it kind of is a bit of a see-through material since it is so thin. The whole tent, including the bathtub floor and seams, are all taped and sealed. There are extra tie-out points on each of the major pole structures for extra durability if you encounter high winds. However, if you choose to use those, you will need to get additional stakes. While the Tiger Wall does not have a dedicated ventilation vent like we will see on the Copper Spur, you can open the door at the top portion halfway to allow for some ventilation. Looking on the inside, we do see a very nice bathtub floor. But you do need to have a pretty much perfect setup if you plan to have the floor nice and taut. Otherwise, it will be loose and it can be a bit of an annoyance. It features 3 main pockets on the inside. You have your 2 on the side and your 1 on the top here. If you do choose to, you can purchase some gear lofts, but if you're looking at this tent anyways, it's likely because you're looking to shed some grams, so it might be counterproductive to add a gear loft. One thing I like about the Tiger Wall is you do have this extra nylon here at the top to give you some extra protection if you get a rain splashback. It's not going to come and hit your head. Where if you look at the feet area, it's a lot shallower, so you might potentially get some more rain splashback on there, especially if you get blowing dust in your tent. It's probably going to come in from this area right here because the nylon does not go up as much, but again, that is at an effort to save weight, so one thing to consider. Also, the walls here, you can see the walls here tend to be a little bit looser than you have on the Copper Spur. Now, if you're laying with 2 people side by side, this mesh might be touching you a little bit. That might be something you just have to deal with. Now, if you're by yourself, obviously you can sleep more in the center and you're not going to deal with that issue. You have lots of room for you and your gear inside if you do choose to use it as a solo shelter. But if you're using it for 2 people, it will be a bit snug, but you can get 2 full-size sleeping pads inside. Now, as you see, this takes the best of the Copper Spur and the Fly Creek in that you have this nice headroom, but it does kind of go down to 1 pole structure where your feet are, where you need a little bit less room since you're not sitting up there. And so you do save weight, but you do lose a little bit of space there. So you get the best of both worlds, and you're generally getting just about 1 square foot more going with the Copper Spur than the Tiger Wall. Let's take a look at the Copper Spur. The Copper Spur setup is also pretty simple. The poles are also color-coded and takes about 5 minutes to set up with the Rainfly. Looking at the outside, the structure is a 4-way pole hub structure with DAC aluminum poles. Each pole goes to the corner to keep the floor nice and taut and the tent stable in high winds. There's also a cross pole to help keep the fabric nice and taut and tight, as well as it raises the walls and roof to provide excellent livability. With this 4-way pole hub structure, the Copper Spur is a fully freestanding tent. The Rainfly for the Copper Spur is also silicone-treated ripstop nylon with a waterproof coating. All the seams are sealed and taped as well. The walls of the tent are breathable polyester mesh. There's an extra tie-out point for each of the major poles that you have in case you do experience high winds. If you do choose to use them, you will need to also provide your additional stakes. This has 2 doors and 2 vestibules for plenty of room to store your gear. Looking at the inside of the tent, you have plenty of livable space and headroom. The walls are near vertical and the headroom is really spaced because of the great pole structure to keep the walls and tent structure nice and taut. You can easily have 2 people, or if you have 1, this is really a palace. You can store your gear inside as well. This will have 2 sleeping pads next to each other and have a little bit of extra room to store gear inside if you do choose to go with 2 people. Inside, we do have 2 side pockets on the floor, 2 overhead, and then 1 large pocket on the head wall. Lots of different loops here where you can hang one of those gear lofts as well. Also, like the Tiger Wall, you do have plenty of nylon there rising up on the head, so if it does rain and goes underneath the rain fly, gets some big drops, it's not going to drop into the tent through the mesh because you do have that nylon here to block it, so that is nice. So the bathtub floor has a lot better tension and stability because of the corners each have their poles there, so you don't have to worry about the wind blowing really hard and the bathtub floor knocking you in the face with something. The mesh walls are also pretty nice and sturdy because of those corners are all reinforced there by the poles. You don't have to worry about those corners flopping out of the ground like you do with the Tiger Wall, but because you do have those 4 poles going each into the corner. So you're going to have more stability, more sturdiness with this copper spur. So in the heavier winds, rains, copper spur is going to do a bit better. Let's consider the pros and cons of each of these tents. First, let's consider the Tiger Wall. The pros is it's half a pound lighter than the copper spur. So you are saving weight, but still getting excellent livability space, and you're still getting a 2-door structure. The cons of this is it doesn't come with a footprint, so you will need to purchase it. The Tiger Wall does have very thin materials and is almost see-through in some areas. With the rainfly, there's not a lot of ventilation, and you have to kind of make do by opening the door of the zipper. Another con is you only have one color, which is this really bright yellow and the white rainfly, and it really stands out if you're out in the wilderness. So if you're seeking to kind of blend in, it's going to be hard to do with this color. The biggest con of the Tiger Wall is it's hard to get the floor nice and taut because of the pre-cut guidelines on those 2 corners where you do have that single pole. If you do get this tent, I highly recommend make customizable, adjustable guidelines instead of using the pre-cut ones, because when you're out, you're not always going to have perfectly flat ground, and often these will be too short. So if you do go with the Tiger Wall, that is something I highly recommend. Make your own adjustable guidelines. Now let's consider the copper spur. One of the pros of the copper spur is you're getting a square foot of more space on the floor and a bit more headroom than you will overall compared to the Tiger Wall. With the copper spur, you also have a fully freestanding tent, so that means you can even use it in sand and places like that where you wouldn't normally be able to stake out a tent. You do have 2 doors, so great livability and space. It's very durable and very storm worthy because of the structure of the poles. You have near vertical walls, which give you great living space, and you also have a rainfly that has built-in ventilation. So this is a great tent if you're choosing to have something that doesn't get plagued with condensation. The cons of the copper spur is it is a bit on the heavy side, especially if you're leaning going more ultralight. Every gram counts, and because of these extra pole structures that you have here, it does add to the weight. Another con is you do not have a footprint that comes with it, so you will need to purchase one separately. Another con for the copper spur is it is a bit pricey. This is going to be one of the more expensive of the tent compared to the Tiger Wall, where if you go with the Tiger Wall, you will be saving $50. Both these tents are nylon, so something to take into consideration. So under heavy rain, they will soak through and sag. Now the copper spur is a bit thicker and will last a bit longer before it wets out compared to the Tiger Wall. The nice thing about the Tiger Wall is you're also saving about $50 to $60 over the copper spur. Now the copper spur HVUL2 is a great one. You can find it on sale right now if you find the 2019 version that doesn't have the vestibule that is held up by tracking poles. I wasn't a big fan of that. I like the 2019 version that I have. It has been dependable, excellent. Now it's about 3 pounds, 2 ounces when it's all packed and done. So just be aware of that. Is that something you want to go with? Or do you want to go with the savings? And in my opinion, the Tiger Wall is an excellent tent. And with the savings plus the minimal things you're losing the ventilation, and you're also losing the extra poles that go on the corners to bring it out. If you bring your own tension guidelines on those corners, this tent is a winner. So if you're one who wants something set right out of the box that is perfect, go with the Copper Spur HVUL2. If you're looking to save a little bit, if you're looking also to get something that's lighter and it takes a little bit of work, you have the know-how to do your own custom guidelines on the corners, then the Tiger Wall is a winner in my book and saves you half a pound for all you gram counters. So who won the tent battle for you? Was it the Copper Spur or was it the Tiger Wall? Which one would you go with and why? Leave me a comment in the comments section. If you like what you saw, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Also subscribe, hit the bell for notifications for more content like this. And as always, thanks for watching.